Hi, my name is Sandra Velasquez. I am the founder of Nopalera, which is a modern Mexican beauty brand based right here in San Antonio.
So thanks again for doing this. I just want to set the real quick scene for why we're here. So we're recording Still Building, San Antonio. The whole intent of this is to really give that real life, what a founder's going through in the midst of the kind of big, ups and the big downs that come along with being a founder. And I honestly was so impressed when we first met. So thank you for doing this, Sandra. I really appreciate it.
I am so excited. My first podcast in San Antonio.
Really?
Now I feel like I've actually landed in San Antonio.
You've arrived.
Yeah.
It's official now.
Yeah.
You are San Antonio royalty.
Yay!
Well, thanks again. So I guess just to kick this off, let's start, January 2026. Where is Nopalera right now? What are you dealing with? Give me the highs and the lows right now in this moment.
Yes. So I will start by saying that the highs and lows are always happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest insights that I gained from last year is that there's never a world where they're both not simultaneously happening.
Yeah.
And so the thing about entrepreneurship is the ability to be able to hold both at the same time and not have them feel like they're canceling each other out, like everything's bad or everything's great. It's actually just everything at the same time.
Yep.
So here in January 2026, I am closing my Series A round led by Morgan Stanley. San Antonio really came through for me hard on this round. Alamo Angels, I think we beat the SpaceX round, I think.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah. And just ever since I moved here, it was like the best thing I've done in my entire adult life was moving to San Antonio right after moving to New York when I was like 23. And it's, great things are happening, right? Going into Costco this year. We launched in Ulta last year, global, Mexico, Middle East, USA online.
Nice.
And, grew the team, but also still fundraising, still very much trying to keep up with the demand, keep up with the goals that we've set for ourselves. Growth is expensive. There's just no way around that, right? And so the money for the inventory has got to come from somewhere.
Yep.
And that is, the biggest stress is really trying to run the day-to-day of a company while staying creative, while staying calm, while also managing the money, right? It's all happening all at the same time.
Yeah, and you can't let anyone, just kind of parsing up what you just said there. You're talking about a launch on Ulta. You're talking about, going into Costco. You're talking about raising a Series A, near closing on that, and all of these things while moving here to a new city, navigating all of that. It is a lot of things. And to your point, these are happening at the same time. They're not things that you can compartmentalize via time to be able to say like, hey, I'm going to worry about this right now, neglect this. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
And all those things come at once. And
yeah.
I'll say, to your point, you said you just moved here, you've gotten a great reception. I'll tell you that you have been one of the brightest, sunlights that we've seen in San Antonio. You coming in, you have been just a great energy. You bring it with you, and so thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad that everybody is receiving you so well. Alamo Angels is investing in you. I think that's a really big deal.
Yeah.
Morgan Stanley backing you. What other things have you noticed, I guess, from that transition? You launching the company in New York City, now relocating to San Antonio. Could you give me kind of the ups and downs of that? Like what's been better here and what's been a little bit harder here?
Everything's only been better. Okay. I know that sounds like I'm lying to your face because we're doing a podcast in San Antonio, but truly,
I'll take it.
New York is a very hard place to live. There is no reprieve. And building a business is already hard enough that I didn't need my surroundings to also be hard. I don't need it to be hard to go to the post office, to go to the grocery store, right? And so I just feel a sense of ease living here. And again, I needed that, especially for where I am currently today, my business, which is like very much in growth mode, like not relaxing, right? Like things are not just on autopilot handling themselves. I am very much in the day-to-day of running the business and, guiding the team. And so I needed that ease of my surroundings.
Yeah.
And, it's true that people here are just so friendly. I know it sounds cliche, but New York is, I would not say, friendly.
It's not known to be friendly.
It's not known to be friendly. It's not that people are mean, but it's just everyone's overwhelmed, right? Everyone's overstimulated. Everyone's got somewhere to go. You're always in someone's way, right? Yeah. And so I needed that, and that's why I chose San Antonio, because originally I was going to move back to San Diego, where I'm from, and as a business owner, I'm like, California and New York, the two worst places to be a business owner.
True, especially tax-wise.
Exactly. So I was like, I love you, San Diego, but I'll just have to visit you for a long time, you know? And so I was like, where's the next best place that is like, has an easy airport, is close to the border, high Latino population, warm climate, no winter. It was like, check, San Antonio.
Yep.
And, you know, I had been here before in 2013 when I was a musician and played at La Villita for the International Accordion Festival. And I just remember it was very hot. But I also remember, like, what is this magical town with this, like, I felt like I was in a storybook, you know, the Riverwalk. And
especially at La Villita, where you've got that concert kind of venue where you're playing on one side of the river and the audience is on the other. It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And so that was my first introduction to San Antonio. And I remembered it, you know, that was back in 2013. And so I do also need natural beauty. Like, that is just me personally. Like, I need to feel like when I look outside, it's pretty. And I live on the Riverwalk. I feel like I live in a movie set, to be honest.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's amazing, and honestly, that is a unique piece of what they've done with the Riverwalk. Not only with the kind of more touristy portions of it, but where you live on the kind of north Museum Reach part. But they've also done a lot of work in the Mission Reach part. I love what they've done with what you can do to transit really the whole entire city just down there, but enjoy those different, you know, nature intermixed with, you know, city functions. It's really great.
It's like Xochimilco meets Amsterdam.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like.
I like that, actually.
I really feel
we
like
need
that.
to get more bikes to kind of meet that Amsterdam thing, but we're getting there.
Yeah, we already got the, you know, the boats on the Riverwalk, so
Exactly,
we got the Xochimilco vibe. They're not as colorful, but you know.
The other thing I'll say too that I love is, you know, looking at your branding and everything with Nopalera is that you also have this, you know, same kind of aesthetic with San Antonio. That's kind of seen through that, you know, the cultural alignment. I love all of that, and I think it's great. I guess one quick thing that I just want to make sure that we talk about is you'd mentioned you were here in 2013 as part of a musician. You were in a punk band, right?
It was really a Latin rock band.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, definitely punk attitude. But it was definitely like a Latin rock band. So it was like cumbia mixed with rock, you know, but, you know, very much electric, right? Electric guitar, drums, you know, but accordion.
If I wanted to go and find you on Spotify, could we?
You could.
Okay,
I
what's
still
it called?
get royalty checks every quarter because, you know, I have a song on Breaking Bad.
Oh, really?
And so I still get, like, I make like about $1,000 a year from royalty rights syndication because, you know, Breaking Bad is a worldwide phenomenon, right? Everyone watches it everywhere.
Legitimately my favorite show ever.
Okay,
period.
well, you can find me in I forget what episode it is, but it's End Times. It's the one where it's the laundromat scene. Do you remember that? Where they think that the meth lab is in the laundromat, so they go to the laundromat. So the workers in the laundromat are listening to Pistolera. So
in the background.
In the background.
Gotcha,
Yeah, it's playing in the laundromat. So you really have to listen for it. But so Pistolera was the name of my band. And you can find me on Spotify. And you can see my old music videos on YouTube.
Okay, I'm looking them up.
NPR Tiny Desk concert.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You were on NPR too?
I was.
Oh, I love the Tiny Desk.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look that up too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
I guess back to the nitty gritty here. You know, one of the intents of this conversation is to also identify, as we look at San Antonio as an ecosystem for other founders to grow, what kind of resources have you noticed that we're missing that you're really like, we really need to work on that? I think, you know, I typically hear a lot funding as being one of the number one ones. I think, you know, no matter where you go, never enough funding.
Yeah.
But anything else that you've noticed resource-wise that you're just like, hey, this is something I've experienced in other ecosystems that San Antonio really is still missing as a gap?
I mean, honestly, I have actually never felt more supported
Really?
than here in San Antonio. I mean, I spoke at the State of the Latina Day. I did a keynote speech for them, and it was for the Latina Leadership Institute luncheon. And I was like, you guys understand there's no Latina Leadership Institute in New York.
Really?
Like, again, I think you take for granted what you have here because it's if you've never left, then you don't know, right? So, yes, funding is like a galaxy phenomenon, right? No one on any planet has enough funding. So, but again, San Antonio was like 90% small business. I mean, I really noticed that even when I went to the UPS store, there was a sign on the door that said locally owned.
Yeah, it's true, right? Yeah.
I mean, just so cool, you know, because kind of like we're all in it together. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that it's beautiful that you can be a normal person, run a business, and like own a home, you know, in San Antonio. You can't do that in New York.
Really, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess those are the exact things that you're right. We beat ourselves up about things that are somewhat out of our control, and we don't acknowledge what is so great about this? And we create kind of a non-realistic glass ceiling above us that we just feel like we can't break through. And so I think it takes an outsider like yourself to really come and highlight those amazing qualities that help small businesses, that help founders as they continue to grow.
Yeah. There's a real support system here. I mean, just the fact that I can just walk into Alamo Angels, that I can walk into geekdom, right? Like you feel the community vibe.
Yeah.
That when you go to New York, you're just in a big city, right? Everyone's just like fighting to survive. It's like everyone for himself. There are pockets of community, right? I don't want to just totally trash New York, but it's here. It's just it's much more like felt.
Yeah.
Whereas in New York, you really have to find like where are the pockets, right? Where are the groups?
One analogy that I heard that I'm kind of hearing here as well is that cities typically play like their sports teams, and if you know anything about the San Antonio Spurs, it is a very team-oriented organization. Everybody's there to support each other.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about the Knicks, but I do know that they've been in a lot of like challenging relationships among each other. So it kind of supports that analogy.
Yeah. So that's the vibe, right?
Yeah.
That's the vibe of the city. That's like the tone that you said here. But I think the only thing that's missing, and this is not a San Antonio thing, right? So this is just what's missing as when you're an early stage founder, kind of building from zero.
Yeah.
Is the lack. So funding is one thing, right? Because I think when we think of funding, we're talking about you're going and raising venture capital, right? But where are the lines of credits from the banks?
Yes.
And so again, one of the incredible things that happened since I moved to San Antonio is I met people who connected me with local banks that I would have never known about these banks because they're so small.
Yeah.
Like I had never heard of Karnes County National Bank.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard, Frost has a big building, but Karnes County National Bank, do you?
No, I don't even know.
Okay, and you live here, right? So again, but you need to find the people that know the people.
Yep.
And there were people here that were willing to help me find those people. And so now I have a bank account with Karnes County National Bank, and it looks like, knock on wood, they're going to give us a line of credit once I close this round, which I've never had. Like
and
Chase was never going to give me a line of credit.
Yeah, you need to have these, kind of overbearing metrics that you have to hit as far as number of years in business, number of, amount of revenue coming in order to qualify for lines of credit with these big institutions.
They are not for small businesses.
Yeah.
They are not.
100%, yeah.
I've talked to them all, right? So I'm going to call them all out. Chase. I'm with Chase still, right? I still have the Chase account because I use it for international wires, like incoming payments.
Yeah.
But, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, all the ones that you've heard of, they're like, yeah, let me see your 5-year historical profitability. I'm like, I'm a startup.
Yeah.
Do you know what that means? And they don't. And they're not in the business of risk. So that's the thing, right? Like starting a business is risky.
It is.
It's risky.
Some of the most risky things you can do.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to go and get a job somewhere else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though that's also risky, right? Because we know that you could be fired at any time. There is no security, right?
Yep.
But starting a business is risky, and the banks are not in the business of believing in your dream.
Yep.
They're not. And so you need to find the people. And I spent like literally 2 years trying to find fintech banks, local banks, solutions, credit unions. Like I have talked to everyone, I felt like, and I'm like, okay, how am I supposed to pay for inventory? Because I don't want to pay for inventory from the equity dollars.
Yeah.
That's money for people, right, to grow the team and to grow. And that, as an inventory-based business, right, I think it depends what kind of business you're building. But for me, I need the line of credit for inventory.
I mean, that's what, the credit is perfect for, is to be able to do those exact quick transactions, getting what you need to be able to ship it to, fulfill that invoice, and then you pay it off when you're done.
Yeah.
So, I agree, and I'm glad that you were able to find these smaller institutions as kind of a niche to be able to solve that problem.
And I found them here in San Antonio. I didn't find them in New York.
Reassuring, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to touch on, which came up when the first you and I met, was with your product. You're in CPG. I think as we think about companies that have that kind of an industry, one of the top places that they always think of, like, I've made it when I am on Shark Tank, right? Like everybody talks about, like, that's the dream. You were on Shark Tank, right? And you ended up turning down investment from them, correct?
2 offers. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Wonderful and Danny Lubeski, who is, has roots here in San Antonio, who I actually got to meet at the last event that Startup Week, where you spoke, and that was good to see him again. Where he's like, "Oh, the one that got away." I was like, "Guess what? There's still time. I'm raising again."
Yeah.
So,
is he going to take you up on it?
I don't know. I didn't actually ask him in person, but in my mind, he did refer to me as the one that got away. But Shark Tank is a television show, and the producers are very clear about that, right? So they're like, this is a television show. We need people to watch it, right? In order, anything needs, that's their metric, right? So it needs to be entertaining, right? So it's not about whether you say yes or whether you say no. and they were very clear, like, don't say yes if you really mean no, because if we find out that you're yanking Mark Cuban's chain in diligence, we're not going to air your episode.
Oh, dang. Okay. So they're pretty, cutthroat about that.
Yeah. And so I went in, I was like, I have my ceiling of where I'm willing to negotiate, to give away up to like 10%, right? I offered 5, right? And I was like, I'm willing to go up to 10, but they were like, we want 30. I'm like, we're not even in the same galaxy, And then I went, and so, I said no, and then I went and I raised an equity round for a lot more money for a lot less equity,
So it ended up paying off just being there, but not necessarily from the relationship that came from that shoot itself.
We did the $300,000. I was asking for $300,000, and we ended up doing the $300,000 in sales immediately after the episode airing, without having to give away the equity.
That's great.
Yeah.
So it was a positive outcome, but just not what typically people think of when they think of you're on Shark Tank, you're going to get a deal with Mr. Wonderful, you're going to walk away and everybody's happy. It's not like that.
Yeah, I mean, some people it is, right? But I think that the average American does not know what equity means.
Yeah.
They don't know what 20% means, right? They just hear dollars.
Yep.
So like, oh my God, $300,000, like take the money, right? And I know, right, as a product-based founder, that $300,000 is like one purchase order. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, great, I just gave away 30% of my company and I paid for a lotion once, right? So I think that's the thing that, that most people don't. I didn't understand what that meant, right? 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, right? Because equity that's your ownership, right?
So going along that and realizing that there are these gaps that founders really run into pretty early on, understanding equity, understanding, accounting in general, the flow of revenue, margins when it comes to your product and how much you're selling it for, and co-packing, all those different things.
Yeah.
As you think about those complexities that you've learned along the journey of building Nopalera to where it is today, which one of those I think was the biggest shock to you, and what did you do to kind of solve it in the most meaningful way?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as you were asking the question, I was thinking, like, if I could just build a subsection of geekdom and make it, something that I would have needed when I was starting, it would be this arm, a financial arm.
Okay.
Right, and that financial arm would include like a CFO, fractional CFO, an accounting team, an advisor, right? Someone, and kind of like subject matter experts, I guess, for different industries. Because I don't know what it's like to run a restaurant. I have no idea how people do the COGS or understand.
And it's different.
It's very different. I'm like, I don't know how you price an enchilada. Like, I don't know how you figure that out, right? But I know consumer, right? I know CPG, and I also worked in CPG before launching Nopalera. I worked at Van Leeuwen Ice Cream, Mass Brothers Chocolate, High Bar. And so that's really where I understood, margins, distribution, like the cut that everyone takes along the way, right? And how much you have to make it for in order to sell it for this, and vice versa. And those things, unless you've done it before or unless you have a background in finance, like, you're not going to know how to read a P&L. You're not going to know how to build a financial model. You're not going to know how to do these things. And so I, learned over the years very piecemeal. Like, the very first thing I did before I even launched Nopalera was I used the SCORE program. Do you know that?
Yeah, the mentoring program.
The mentoring program, yeah. So I found a SCORE mentor in New York who was like they're all like retired professionals, and she was a retired CFO. And she gave me my first, financial model, but it wasn't. When I look back, I'm like, oh, this is not a model. It was just a way to keep track of expenses.
Yeah.
But even still, I needed something. You need
to
something.
Start with,
Like, I don't care if it's a Google sheet. Like, you need something to start understanding what does it cost you to run your business, right? What does it cost you to make your product? How much are you bringing in, et cetera? And so then from there, I graduated to. I started my first kind of financial platform was called Bench. I think they actually went out of business.
Really? Yeah.
But it was a great idea. It was super affordable. Maybe that's why they went out of business. But
they didn't understand their own margins.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I'm professional. I have like a financial, bookkeeping system, and then from there, I just. Everything breaks, and then you have to advance to the next thing, right? So unless you're kind of going straight out of the gate with, like, I'm starting with a CFO, I'm starting with NetSuite, I'm starting with all, the financial model already intact. Like, I learned as I went, and things broke, and then I had to kind of find the next solution. So it was not easy. It wasn't like I started out of the gate with, like,
everything
the packet. No, not at all. But I did understand margins, right? So you can do that, like, on a notebook, right? You just need to understand, like, what does it cost me to make all in, right? What does it cost me to ship? And so that to me is what I find that most entrepreneurs, like early stage, that have never done this before, are missing, right? They're missing like somebody who understands a financial model, a P&L, right? True margins. Like, again, you can have the best product in the world, but if the margins are not there, you will not make it.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, your good product will not save you, you know? And so those, like, that is what I would have wished for, right? I had to learn things the hard way over the course of 5 years. And now I just hired a fractional CFO, right? And I have a financial model that is very robust. Like, it's too robust for me, but I have someone who can,
Help you
deal
translate
with it.
yeah.
Yeah, I can read the P&L, but that's like one sheet. But those are things that I feel like it's unfortunately the backbone of a business. We all want to talk about brand and marketing and Costco and all these kind
All
of
the
like
sexy things,
kind of things that happen after the fact. But
Yep.
you cannot survive if the foundation is not there, and you need someone to sit you down, and you need to really understand it. Do you know what I mean?
On that front, I have kind of two questions. One, which is, was there any apprehension at that stage, those early stages, where you kind of, I think we all can accept, were not fully aware of all the different pieces that go in there? Was there any apprehension in opening up the books and being as transparent as you could be with somebody who was from the outside, in this instance, a score mentor, and to really just kind of say like, hey, help me understand this? Was there any apprehension that you had or that you feel other founders may have with that very first interaction?
I did not have apprehension because I was like, I don't know how to do this. Please help me.
I don't know. I don't know.
You need extreme humility if you're starting from zero and have never done this. I'm like, I know brand, I know product, I know people, but like I don't know how to use this sheet. Tell me, explain it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not have any apprehension, and I think that's also why I've learned so much, because I'm always like, I don't know this. Help me.
Yeah.
You know, you win nothing, no trophies, by pretending that you know things that you don't.
100%.
If other founders have apprehension, I would encourage them not to, because again, what you don't know could ultimately hurt you, and you're just delaying the inevitable. Like, eventually you're going to need to know.
Yep.
So you might as well know now.
One additional thing I'll say, so you mentioned SCORE, which I think is such a wonderful program. We have the pleasure of running the SCORE, not running, but partnering with the SCORE program here in San Antonio because of our relationship with the city of San Antonio and our Launch SA program, which is amazing. And so we get to work with these, as to your point, kind of been there, done that, experienced individuals who are willing to give their time for no monetary value and to help these founders at such an early stage. How did you learn about SCORE when you started this? And really, like, were there other mentors that you had, or was it just that one who really understood the financing that really jumped in and helped?
I think I learned about SCORE through another founder, actually. And so I searched for my local SCORE, location in New York, and that's how I met them. I had no network when I started Nopalera in beauty, right? I had a network in
Other
grocery,
CPG,
right? Like, I could tell you about grocery all day long, tell you distributors and merchandisers. But I didn't, and I could find you a bass player, right? I knew music, but I did not have any context in beauty. So the way that I built my network was by literally going to every trade show, conference, applying for every pitch competition. Like, it requires vulnerability, right? It requires being like, I'm here and I'm new and I don't know. And, but again, that's why I've learned so much in such a short amount of time, because I was like, I need to collapse time. I need to learn a lot of things very quickly.
Crash
like
course.
I am not 23. I don't have 20 years to figure this out. Like, we need to get this now. So and that's how I built my network. And now I have a very robust network, right? I have a whole database of venture capitalists, investors, retailers, et cetera, manufacturing partners. But you have to, first of all, identify what you don't know.
Yeah. And
then literally it was just trying to find the solution, right? Because I really felt like I was like, I don't even know what to Google. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm what am I Googling? Who am I searching for, right? And sometimes I still feel that way, not about those things, but about like, I don't know. Like, I would say right now, my biggest thing is like I'm building out the team. My team is the biggest that it's ever been since I launched the company,
How big
right?
is it?
We're now like 17 people.
Okay, well.
A lot of contractors, but still, like, I treat everyone like they're on the team. We're all on the Monday call together. We're all aligned on the same company goals. And so now it's like, it's not just like, 3 people sitting in a room like, okay, you handle lunch, I'll make the phone call, right? Now it's like org structure, right? Who reports to who, whose job is what? And that's where I still struggle. That's the thing where I'm like, I don't even know what this job title is called. What is the title called when someone does these things, right? And so that's a question, right, that I have. And now I've surrounded myself with mentors experts. I just hired a business coach this year, which has been very transformative. I think the struggle is that in the beginning, you need a lot of help, but you don't know what the help is that you need, and you can't afford it. Right? I remember that feeling. I still feel that way now sometimes, like, oh, I really wish I could have like a COO or a president, but can't afford that. You know what I mean? And so you end up still doing a lot of things and wearing a lot of hats.
Those hats. Yeah.
But the first thing is to identify, like, what is it that you need?
Yeah, because I'm thinking about what you just shared there. You're talking about getting an operator to help you manage some of these things that you don't have an experience in.
Yeah.
But then you have to ask the question, okay, $1 spent here has to equate to dollars coming in over here.
Yeah.
And it's really hard at some point as you grow a team to be able to identify, okay, $1 spent towards this operational individual will pay off in the long run. But what is that timeline?
Yeah.
How long can I sustain that to be able to see the outcome of these dollars spent in a different area?
Yeah.
And it's a hard decision to make.
It's hard, 100%, especially when we're talking about operations, because these are not people that are like making money, right? They're like managing the day-to-day.
Keeping things smooth,
Yeah, right? It's like someone has to open the mail, someone has to renew the insurance, somebody has to, do the taxes.
Yep.
All of these things that you're like, that's not a money-making, a revenue-driving, thing, but someone has to do it. Otherwise, the business also falls apart. But that's the hard thing of like that feeling, and I'm very familiar with this feeling of like, God, I really need this help, but I can't afford this, And I've seen that with other founders. They're like, I really would love I think the CFO is a great example. Like, who can afford a CFO?
It seems like such a daunting, 3-letter acronym that, everybody knows what a CEO does.
Yeah.
Everybody knows how important a CFO is to an organization that is growing, but you don't know when that is an essential piece. And it's really from day one, but it is just when can you justify it?
When can you justify it, right? Yep. I mean, what I have learned, one of the greatest things I learned last year, I will say, that might be helpful for other entrepreneurs to hear is not everybody needs to be a US-based salary.
That's a good point.
And I think especially, I don't want to generalize like all Latinos, but we want to support our community. Yeah. We want to hire locally. We want to hire other Latinos. We want to be good people. We want to be good employers, right? But the reality is that we can't afford everyone's U.S. Like home mortgages, 401ks, payroll, benefits when you're early, when you're starting out. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so last year was the first year where I was like, okay, we need to explore these other options of like these other roles. Like, does a social media manager really need to live in the United States? Like,
not necessarily.
Does the e-com manager really need to live in the United States? So now I have 2 people in Brazil, 2 people in Colombia, 1 person in South Africa, 1 person in Mexico. And they're so excited to be a part of the company, and they're so committed. And it's a reminder, and they're getting like great salaries for where they live.
Yep.
And there's no payroll taxes, there's none of that, because the agency that we found them from, like, they pay all of their benefits and everything. So that's a win-win.
Would you mind sharing that resource? I feel like that is something you've hit a nerve on, which is, I think we all want to be able to sit next to this employee that you're giving a livelihood to. Yes. But realizing that as you're building this thing and you're wearing all those different hats, you need help from wherever you can get it. So if you don't mind sharing the resource, I think it'd be great.
Yeah, there's several. So we use one called Talent Pop that we use for customer service and for influencer. And some brands just use Talent Pop just for influencer like sourcing, because you need someone who's just finding people to seed product to and approving them, and it's a doing job. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so Talent Pop has been great. We're looking for someone else through them as well, like another content creator. And then there's another one called Activate Talent, which is a little more senior roles. So things like, media buyer or e-com manager, or I think they even have, controllers, right? So, but again, there is global talent. There are talented people and hardworking people everywhere. You know what I mean?
So why limit yourself to just your backyard or even just your own country?
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. If you run a restaurant, you need people in the restaurant, right? Yeah. Like cooking the food, right? But like, what about the back end, right? Yeah. Who's running the social media, right? Who is doing your finances? Who is that does not have to be someone who lives in New York City.
Yeah. Let me make a real quick shift back to something you'd mentioned earlier. And I would just love to hear from your point of view, the power and the impact of mentorship, what that meant to you, how you continue to leverage it as you're still building today, and where you think it's going to continue to play as you continue to build in the future.
God, I think it's like a forever thing. I think you don't age out of needing guidance. Yeah. and I believe in different types of mentorship. So for me, I'll just tell you what I have right now.
Yeah.
So I have what I call my CEO squad. This is a group of 4 women. Four of us in total that I met through a mastermind that I joined back in 2021, I think. And it was a group of like 2,500 women all growing their businesses. And within that group and that experience, I met this smaller group of women, and we have stayed tight. We all live in different cities. One actually lives here in San Antonio.
Really?
Yeah. And she did not live in San Antonio when I met her. She's from here, and she left and she moved back, and then I moved here. So that's great. So I have one of them here now, but we're all in different cities. We're all in different industries. So no one else is a beauty founder. But what we do is like we keep each other accountable. Sounds like such a boring word, but really it's a success squad. I'll say it like that. It's a success squad. So it's like if I'm winning, they feel like they're winning. I want them to win. Like there's no competition. There's no nothing. It's just like, how do we help each other grow? And I don't just mean in your business, but in your mind, because that's a whole other thing that we can talk about, that your business cannot grow if you don't grow.
100%.
Like you will keep your business small if you do not allow yourself to grow. But so that's one piece, which is I would call peer mentorship, right? So you need that. Other people that are in it, like in the same kind of experience that you're having, and that you can talk to, right? So we have a weekly Zoom. Every Monday we're on a call. Every quarter we get together. So it's a commitment, but it's not a work group, right? It's like it's a friend group, right? That we're all just committed to each other's evolution. And then I have my advisors, right? So these are like beauty experts, ex-CEOs, current CEOs, right? One of them also lives here in San Antonio. Again, San Antonio, the magic town. So, Ruben Carranza is the global CEO of Banks Beauty, which is a private equity firm that owns Amica Hair Care, Eve NYC. They just bought Bioma, which is a brand at Target. And they have Ethique, which is like a Australian brand or a New Zealand brand. And he's Mexican, he's a mariachi, he lives in San Antonio. Like, I'm just so grateful to even have that we're even alive at the same time on earth. And so Ruben Carranza, then I have, Margarita, who's a former chief merchant of Sephora, and I have Rose Fernandez, who is the ex-CEO of Algenist. So I have those are my advisors. Those are the people that I'm like, help me with this P&L, right? Yeah. What am I doing wrong?
Where you take your problems that really need
how do I get to 50
senior,
million? Like, tell me what you did with your brands, right? And then I have founder groups. So I'm in like 3 Slack channels and 2 WhatsApp groups with other founders.
Really?
Where it's like, hey, does anybody know a great packaging supplier? Hey, can someone recommend a CFO? Has anyone ever gone to Geekdom? Do you like it? Is it good? Right? Whatever it is, I can pop into any of those groups and ask questions.
Nice.
And that's important, right? And those are consumer founders, right? And a lot of them are beauty founders, so it's more specific. And then I have an executive coach, right, who I just hired, who is more about leadership.
Gotcha.
It's all like making me a great leader, right? I'm like, I have a team now. I woke up one day and I have a global team of 19. Help, you know?
It's a different person you need to be for that.
Yeah. And so again, help me create the systems, help me evolve, like help me set up the meeting cadence, everything, right? So I have a lot of support, right? That you're talking about peer mentorship, founder groups, actual experts, executive coach.
Well, and I love that too, because what I'm hearing in your own approach of mentorship is this kind of like parsing out of roles. And so you have your advisors who are really there to help you tackle these bigger strategic level next steps. You have these peer groups that are there to answer quick questions and needs as far as resources and so on and so forth. But then you also have this more cohorted group community of other founders, other CEOs that are in different industries, but understand how lonely it can be in the role that you sit, but also like the challenges of, hey, I'm going to need to hire somebody, I'm going to need to fire somebody, I'm going to need to do these big, hard things. Help me, with what that is. And I love that because you kind of have these different compartments that you've placed your resources within. And I think that that's a really smart approach. So
and you kind of need them all.
Yeah.
Like because now no one knows everything.
Yep.
Right. And so even my advisors have coaches.
Yeah.
And I think it's like in sports, right? Like everyone has a coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everyone goes to practice. Everyone has a coach. And that's how you grow, right? So I guess if I were to say in my sub arm of geekdom that I'm creating in my mind right now, so there's a finance arm, right?
We got some space if you want to build this. We can do it together, okay?
Okay. So there's the finance arm with the CFOs and the accounting teams and the banks, the local banks, and then there is like the expert mentorship piece.
Yep.
And I think that the challenge, and I've seen this and I've experienced this, is that you need help, but you don't even have time to meet with people to get the help.
And sometimes you don't even know what the question is that you need help with.
Yeah.
And you kind of need some guidance, even being able to pull that out of the bag.
Yeah, because you're so in the jar that you're just like, I'm drowning. I don't even know what I need. Right. And I know that feeling. Right. I remember I had a call with another founder who was running like a $200 million brand, and she was like, so if you could if there's something that you're doing that you could stop doing, what would that be? What are you doing that you don't want to do anymore?
Yeah.
And I couldn't even answer because I was so overwhelmed. I'm like, there's so many things I don't even know where to begin.
You got this laundry list that's ever growing, and you don't even know where to start.
Couldn't even imagine not having to do the things, so I couldn't even answer the question. That's how deep you are in the jar.
Yeah.
So to your point, you don't even always know what the question is to ask. So you kind of need someone to ask you questions. And that's actually a new skill that I'm developing now with the help of my executive coach, is when I'm doing weekly touch bases with team members, I'm not the one doing the talking. I'm saying, so
bring it to me, right?
You tell me what's your thinking around this podcast? Tell me how you're thinking about the strategy, and let people talk, and learn, and then it puts them in a position of leadership as well, instead of just always being told what to do.
Yeah, it's a level of ownership that you're giving them that really kind of helps shape what that looks like.
Yes, and I think ownership is huge. I think it's what keeps people around. It's what keeps people motivated. And I explain it to them we're not creating this new system of working so that to make things complex or corporate. It's because ultimately I also care about you and your own evolution, so that you can walk away and the next thing that you do, you can say, I did these things and I own them. And
to be honest with you, that's something that I've seen through a lot of different founders that have come through Geekdom, is this level of, you get an individual who is maybe too early for the role that you really need them to develop into, but giving them that ownership to be able to craft it and to build themselves up to the capabilities that are there. I love watching managers become directors, become VPs. It is amazing to see.
Yeah, exactly.
At this stage that you find yourself in right now, what is harder than you thought it would be, and what's easier than you thought it would be? I think from my perspective, and as I contemplated this question, it was more around the thought of, I think sometimes we build fear around something that is unnecessary, but then sometimes we walk in confident and we get hit on the side of the head with something we're not expecting. What's been that for you at this stage?
Oh, that's such an interesting question, and I think, when we started this conversation, I said good and bad is always happening at the same time. And one of the best pieces of advice that another mentor that I got through the Morgan Stanley Accelerator a couple of years ago gave me is, never get too high, never get too low.
Yeah.
Because he was like, especially with fundraising, right? Because you're like, I raised millions of dollars, and you want to celebrate and you want to tell everyone on LinkedIn, and it's like, no, just get back to work.
Yeah.
And when you're really low, right? Like, I only have $70 in the bank account. Like, I'm really learning how to mitigate and emotionally regulate yourself is, I think, the biggest task here at hand.
How do you do that, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I mean, it has been a process. I wish I could say, oh, and you just, read this book or, take this pill. I wish, but no, it has been a process of coming to the realization that this is how it is. There is no arrival. There is no and now I get to just chill.
Yeah.
Unless
there's no cruise control.
And I know this because I know founders who are doing 200 million and they have the same feelings.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm like, okay, so there is no arrival. Right. I remember again this other founder who's doing 200 million. She's like, no employee will save you. You could never let your hands off the wheel. You keep thinking if I just hire, a podcast editor, everything's going to be better, right? But no, ultimately, it still is your podcast or your business.
That
right?
weight never leaves your back.
It never leaves your back. And so learning how to hold the weight without letting it crush you is, to me, what I am currently learning how to do. Because I've learned that, yes, things have gotten easier. I can say, I'm no longer making the soap in my kitchen. Isn't that great? Shouldn't my life be easier? But now other things have come onto my plate, and now other things are hard.
Yeah.
Right now I'm managing 19 people. Now I have, frivolous lawsuits because we have visibility as a brand, because I've been on Shark Tank. People think we're rich and famous, and they can come and, try to sue me for, website non-compliance or whatever, And so, yes, things get easier. Things fall off your plate, but new things get added onto your plate, and your plate is never clear. There is no moment where there's I'm good now. I don't have anything to do. It's just running itself.
Yeah.
And so, learning how to find peace in that is currently my current, I'm going to say, challenge.
Gotcha.
Or my current task at hand, because what I started to feel bad about was, am I just not enjoying my life because I'm always worrying, or I'm always preoccupied? I'm always thinking about like the next problem to solve. When is that bill going to get paid? When is that investor this and that? Like learning you have to enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there goes your life. And then what was it for if you couldn't actually enjoy the present? And that's also just my own challenge as a Leo and as a impatient person.
Yeah.
Is like, I want it done now.
Yeah.
Right. I want it done now. When is it done? When are we getting there? Are we there yet? And the thing is the not knowing is actually what entrepreneurship is.
Yeah.
It's just uncertainty until you're done.
Living in ambiguity. Yep.
You just live in uncertainty, and so finding peace in that. And when I say peace, I mean like, I want to be able to enjoy my Saturday. I want to be able to walk on the Riverwalk and not be fretting, right? And just be present.
Yeah.
And just like, it's a beautiful day. Wow, I'm healthy. All the people I love are healthy. Really enjoying the present moment. Staying in gratitude helps me, honestly. I do have like a gratitude practice, I will say, in that I just call out the things that are going well that we kind of take for granted. You know, like in New York has great drinking water. So I would say like, I'm really grateful for clean drinking water, because you know what? Actually, not everyone has that.
It's true, yeah.
You know, I'm really grateful for, now I live in San Antonio. I live in an apartment with a pool and a gym. I'm really grateful to have a pool and a gym. You know, I feel like I'm living in a hotel. I'm really grateful that my parents are still alive, that they're healthy. I'm really grateful for that my daughter is alive and healthy. Those things, I say them out loud because it grounds you back to the present moment. Like, you need to acknowledge all the things that are going right.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, all the things that are going wrong will take you down.
Yeah.
And you will have overlooked all the things that were going well. Because when any of those other things are not going well, that's actually the real problem.
Yeah.
Like when my parents die, then that's real life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the lotion going out of stock will live. Do you know what I mean? So those are the things that I think when you're an entrepreneur, it's like you have to remember you're still a human being, right? That lives in a world with people, with family, with, friends. And to stay rooted in that, because business is not forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But relationships are. And so that is the challenge, the task at hand. I won't say that I have accomplished it, that I have I've mastered it, I've mastered peace. No, I still find myself worrying, but I'm trying to catch myself of I know intellectually that worrying does nothing.
Yeah.
Worrying actually does not expedite anything. So either take an action or let it go.
Yeah.
Write it down, do it tomorrow, or go to your computer and do it now, whatever. But do it and then free up your brain.
Yeah.
Right?
Start making progress towards the goal.
Yeah.
But also keeping mind around what you are grateful for. I love that. Saying it out loud, I think, is a big deal.
Yeah.
I appreciate that aspect.
Yeah. No, because it's true. I think I try to fast forward into what I call, this sounds dark, but what I call deathbed wisdom. Mm-hmm. When I'm on my deathbed, what are the things that I'm going to actually look back on and feel like I'm fulfilled?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? What are the things that really matter? And so for me, I already can fast forward and be the thing that I regret the most is that I didn't enjoy the present, or when it was happening.
Yeah.
Right. If you're always and when I get to, then I will be X, you'll never get there because there is no there. And we know this because we see people that are already billionaires and they're still unhappy and they still are unsatisfied. And you're like, okay, so then it's not the money.
Well, in thinking about that, I wonder, do you feel like the journey of entrepreneurship is a piece of that? And what I mean, I think specifically is that as you think about being along for a ride of being an employee at another organization that maybe you don't have your hands on the wheel, is one area where living in the present is a little bit more difficult because you do not have your hands, quote unquote, on the wheel. And not that we ever really do have our hands fully on the wheel and we can control everything. But do you feel as you do this thought process of fast forwarding and imagining, as I look back, these are things I don't want to regret. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to say this is wisdom that I've had. Do you feel this journey that you've gone on with Nopalera is a part of the positive piece of saying I'm going to master what I can and I'm going to control what I can?
Yes, because entrepreneurship, from my experience, I think, I don't want to speak for everyone, but from my experience, entrepreneurship is a mirror to yourself. Mm-hmm. And it will show you who you are. It will show you what your fears are, what your weaknesses are, and it will show you your limits. And it's up to you to decide whether you're going to evolve or not. And that's why so many brands stay small. That's why so many companies stay small. In fact, last week I had a conversation with another founder friend, and she's like, I don't want to fundraise because I can't take the rejection. Like, it's just not for me. Like, I'm just going to like, you know, I took out a loan. I just took out a loan. And really what she's saying is like, I'm just going to stay small because I can't evolve myself past that limitation. Right, and that's not a judgment.
No.
This is not a judgment. It's just to reinforce this point that I'm trying to make, that entrepreneurship will show you your limits, and then you decide: do I want to go past that limit? Yes or no.
Well, and I think that's big of that individual to be able to acknowledge, like, hey, no, I want to be right here. I'm happy.
And
here.
great. Like, not everyone needs to raise venture capital and be on Shark Tank. Not everyone needs to do all of those things. Like, there's many ways to run a business. And so again, it's back to you. How do you want to enjoy your life? How do you feel comfortable growing? Are you happy with the current situation, right? I'm trying to build a brand that lasts for hundreds of years, right? I'm trying to build the modelo of beauty, right? That I keep telling my team, I'm like, in 100 years, none of us are going to be on this call, but the brand better still be on shelves, and people still better be using it, because we will have integrated into people's daily lives, and we will have changed the narrative and the conversation about what a Latina beauty brand is, right? That it is just part of the mainstream, right? It's already happened in food and bev. It hasn't happened in beauty yet, right? And so that is my North Star. And so that means I have to keep pushing to make sure that happens. And that requires me to evolve. It requires me to stop being scared of numbers, right? Because I think that's a ceiling that we all live under that we're not aware of. I used to think that, you know, $10,000 was a lot of money, right? And not that it's not money, right? But I am now thinking in millions. And that took time to evolve my brain to be, and again, my internal capacity to hold those numbers, right? Last year I had an incident where I was in Mexico City doing an Ulta training, and I woke up and, you know, terrible habit, checked my phone while in bed, and I got an email that said, alert, you know, your credit card is declined because it's, you know, it's over, you know, it's gone over the maximum limit. And I was like, how is that possible? And then I realized that our marketing agency had there was some issue, and basically they spent $17,000 overnight on TikTok shop ads. And I was like panicking, right? And I told my friend Aurora, who is one of my CEO squad members who lives in San Antonio, she's like, nothing bad has happened. So all this has happened is that you have now had an experience to expand your capacity to hold a bigger number. $17,000, like, why is that? What is there to panic about? Like 17, 70, 7, like, they're just numbers, right? But it shows you, again, it's a mirror of like what I think is a big number, right? So when I'm like $17,000 overnight, oh my God, right? But again, like, some people spend $1 million in a month on Facebook ads, right?
And they don't blink an eye.
They don't blink an eye, right? And so it's all about what you can hold. And that has been the journey that I am still on. I'm still trying to expand my container, right? Because when I raised capital the first time in 2022, I raised, you know, $2.6 million. And that was like, I had never seen $2 million in my bank account, right?
That was
and I was like,
shock,
I was like, this is going to last forever, right? Like, oh my God, you're right. And then the money runs out. And I'm like, okay, so now that I'm raising again, I'm like, again, no emotion. I'm like, yeah, there's going to be, you know, $3 million in the bank, but I'm not going to crack a champagne bottle open because I know where that money's going to go. I know how fast it's going to go.
You know why you need it.
And I know why we need it and where we're going to put it. And so there's just no emotion attached to it, right? So I don't know. I'm kind of going off the rails here, but
no, I think you just gave a lot of gold. So thank you for that. But you know, I just want to say thank you so much, Sandra, for coming and being a part of this program. You know, I love what you're doing. I think, you know, you are really embodying the kind of still building mantra. I love your candidness. Thank you for everything, and I hope you continue to progress and you get your funding raised and closed.
Thank you.
And we'll be here to help with whatever you need or whatever celebration you're ready to have.
Thank you. It might just be, you know, like a paper cup with some like apple juice, and we'll be like, okay, great, cheers. No, I appreciate it. I for me, and I also mentor other people, you know, even though I'm still building. And because there's people that are behind me, even though there's people that are way ahead of me, there's still people, we're all in different parts of our journey. And I think finding people who are just like a couple steps ahead of you is super helpful, right? Because, you know, we talked about this at the beginning, having someone come on and just say like, okay, yeah, I sold my company for $300 million and it was great, right? But they don't remember what it was like.
In the trenches.
And so I'm very much in the trenches still. And it's important for us to help each other to collapse time, because none of us are doing things that have never been done before, like not really.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's hacks that we've experienced and we've learned. And
yeah, like no one's ever built a premium Mexican beauty brand before. So, okay, I'm a pioneer there, but people have built beauty brands before. People have sold into retail before. And so collapsing the time, like trying to get the answers. And when I say the answers, I'm really like, tell me what the hurdles are. Tell me what the roadblocks are so that I can advance, right? So that I can make decisions to get over those roadblocks.
yeah.
Those are the things that we need to help each other with.
I love that. And one last thing I'll bring up here too is that one of our core values here at Geekdom is be helpful. And the intent of that is this giving back mantra and the idea that like you're, maybe taking advantage of mentorship today, but tomorrow we'd love for you to help. And so that's one thing that I'd love for you to just take a quick moment to touch on. But the other piece of it that we've realized that you also kind of touched on is that there are stages. And we've kind of separated them into 4 separate stages at the early creation of a startup here, which is ideate, cultivate, shape, and grow. And one of the things that we've learned is that if you're taking a mentor that's in the grow stage, they're out there, just growing their brand and they've kind of made it, for lack of a better term, them trying to mentor somebody at ideate is not good for either party involved, because to your point, the grow individual doesn't really remember what it was like when they were in ideate, and the ideate person is dealing with problems that they just can't get answers to from the grow. And so I love that you're acknowledging and seeing that even outside of the world, is to be able to say like, hey, I was there 2 steps ago. I can share more here and that give back. So would you mind just really quickly touching on kind of how important giving back is for you at this stage?
It's so funny because someone asked me, I think it was on a panel somewhere, and someone said like, why is it important for you? Oh, I was at Peloton. I did like a fireside chat at the Peloton headquarters in New York. She was like, but why is it important for you to like, because I had a podcast. I still do. I just haven't done it because I've been busy fundraising for 2 years, but you can still listen to, 2 seasons of episodes. And it was all me talking to other founders. And so she was like, why is this important to you? And I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, because
foreign,
well, because to me, it's so ingrained in me. Like I think really, if I try to trace it back, like my parents are very generous people. My mother's an immigration lawyer, right, who has won awards for her pro bono work, meaning like she helps people for free, right? And then my dad is an artist, and so it's just been ingrained in me to help people, and like I enjoy it, and so when I started my podcast and I, launched Nopalera, I was already helping people, even though I was like, I'm just starting, but I'm already helping people. Let me know if anyone needs help, right?
It was a part of your foundation.
It was a part of my foundation. I did like Mentor Mondays on my Instagram channel. I would answer people's questions. And I don't know, like I can't explain, it's just who I am, right? I just feel like it's important because I do believe that whatever you put onto the universe comes back to you. And I also think like it's part of why we're on Earth. It's like if we were going to get like deep and existential, like why are we here, right? Why are we here?
Which she said we were going to get to. Yeah.
So okay, here we are. We're at that part of the show. So why are we here? It's like we're here to like grow, enjoy, and help each other.
Yeah.
I don't really know why else we're here, honestly.
It's true. Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, you could grow and you could just, build your company and just go make your money and just go move to an island, and no judgment, right? Not everyone likes to talk to people. Not everyone knows how. Not everyone has social skills. But I truly just feel like that's actually like the bigger picture is that even my brand, right? Like my goal of my brand is not to help your skin get soft. And that might be a terrible thing to say out loud, right? But it's really to change the way people feel about themselves. And that is part of the help, like that's part of the impact. So I guess if I look at your question in a different way, I don't look at it as helping, I look at it as impact.
Gotcha.
How do we make a change?
Yeah.
How do we change things? There's so many people that need so much help, myself included, right? We all need help, we all need support, assistance, we need cheerleaders, we need everything, right? People to keep us in check. We all need that, right? That's part of the human experience. And so to me, it's just part of that, right? I don't see it as like, and I'm over here doing this extra thing. I'm helping, I'm, volunteering at the homeless shelter, right? Like to me, it's all impact. And especially if you have things, like why wouldn't you want to share them or help people with those things, right? So that's just how I think, right? I don't think of it as like this separate thing that I need to execute on, right? It's kind of my natural state, to my detriment, actually, right? Because I'm very much still building. So why do I even have time to be like on mentorship calls with other people, right? Trying to help them. But so I have like pared that down a little bit. But people have helped me, right? And so I want to help others too.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like it's all
Cycle.
It's all a cycle. It's all connected.
I love that.
Yeah.
So just this last year, you had a big accomplishment, which was getting into Ulta online, right? In Ulta, Mexico. I know that those things are not always you make it and then you're done. So what is it that, we as a community can do to support that amazing accomplishment and to make sure that it leads to what's next for that relationship?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. So I think the misconception, right, to your point, is that people think, okay, you're in, great, you've made it, you're successful. Done, yeah. But the reality is that retail is driven by velocity. It is all what they care about is sales.
Yeah.
How many units are selling per week, per door, right, per city, per state.
Is it going up? Is it going down?
Exactly. Yeah. And where are you in the ranking, right? And the ones that are not moving get discontinued, right? So getting in is not the accomplishment. Staying in is the accomplishment. Yep. So really, like, people buying us on Ulta.com helps us, right? Another thing that's kind of annoying but really, really helps us is when people leave reviews.
Okay.
So anyone that, feel free to leave anywhere, right? On our website, on Amazon, on Ulta.com. But those are the things that the retailers look at.
Well, yeah, and I'm thinking about that from kind of the channel perspective of this, right? Like today, CPG brands are in every possible channel that they can be. Obviously, I'm sure we can go to Nopalera.co. We can go and we can buy it there. Go to Amazon, do the same. But with a relationship like Ulta, there are certain expectations to kind of level that up. And so I think for our audience, knowing that they can go to Ulta.com, they can go and purchase you there. And then ideally, if they keep doing that and they do it well, then we can go to Ulta, the store, and we can find it there, and then these products will be there. I think that's a big thing for our audience to be aware of and for us to help with as a community and as an audience.
Yes, it really does. It makes all the difference in the world. So please shop Nopalera.ulta.com.
Okay. I'll be buying some for my wife today.
Yes.
So.
Okay. Good. And then leave a review.
Oh, of course. Yes. One of the things you mentioned early on in our conversation was around how supportive San Antonio has been. We are really all about that, specifically here at Geekdom, but San Antonio as a whole. It's in our culture. So what is it that this community can do to support you at the stage that you're in right now?
We live in a digital first world. People discover things on their phones, and which means that we as a product-based business, we need constant content online. We need people making videos showing the product from their perspective, not scripted, but you tell me why you like it. Like, what do you like about it? So we're always looking for content creators. So if anyone, finds this, video and gets to this point into the session and is a content creator and loves, beauty products, we're going to do a giveaway. We're willing to give away a whole, these are just some selection, but we have more that we will send you, like a full package, and you can use it to create content, and would love to see it.
I love that. So that's great that you bring that to the table and that our audience can jump on to help you, but also walk away with some of your product as well. So I love that. Getting some user-generated content going here. I love that. Yeah,
and it's for the whole family. Like, your family members or your roommates will steal your Nopalera. We have heard these stories before.
Yeah, I'm sure. My daughters are always fishing through mine and my wife's stuff to try to get what's next. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So you asked me about my, what's the difference between San Antonio and New York, or what are the things that I find missing? I would love to know from your perspective, as someone who has been here, who is like at the heart of geekdom, with the kind of the heart of entrepreneurship, here in Innovation San Antonio. What do you find are the biggest challenges for the new entrepreneurs that are coming in, or even the ones that are more established? I would love to understand, like, the challenge between, like, people that are just starting and people that are more established, and if there's a relationship.
Yeah, I would say that the thing that I see most often is there is a lot of, supply and early stage ideas that it's just where we sit as Geekdom as well. We get a lot of these early stage ideas, and we're able to help these founders kind of get started. I think where we see some gaps that we're really trying to solve for is what happens after. And what I mean by that particularly is we see ourselves at Geekdom trying to prep individuals to be ready to have conversations with potential funders or customers, right? But then as we shift into that phase, what is it that we as Geekdom, we as a city, we as an ecosystem in general can do to increase those resources? And so one big area that we're spending our time is around customers. And so are there relationships that we as Geekdom can create with other entities across San Antonio that could potentially utilize a product of a company that is coming through our programs today? And so using yours as an example, I know we had this conversation going back to San Antonio Startup Week, and one of the things that you see your product product being integrated into our hotels.
Yeah.
And so can we as Geekdom utilize the role that we have across San Antonio to create a relationship with, the local Hilton operators and say, hey, we have this amazing product and this amazing founder who has got something that we really think speaks to the culture of San Antonio and can really speak to the tourists that are coming into town. Is there some kind of collaboration that we can do? And we can play a conduit to say, okay, what is the challenges that you're dealing with, larger corporation in San Antonio, that we can then take to our founders that are going through our programs or through our community and say, hey, can you solve this for them? And if the answer is yes, then we can create a much easier conduit to make that happen, where it is not a formal RFP process that sometimes, people get lost in because of the overwhelming nature of those things. Can we break down those barriers? And so that's one area that we see as a gap that we're looking to tackle. But then, as we mentioned throughout this conversation as well, funding is something you can never find enough of.
Yeah.
And so how do we create our own repository of funders in specific industries, looking for specific size organizations and things. And so we're doing that work consistently, and it's always trying to do matchmaking there. And so those are the two areas that you find us in today that we've identified are gaps across the ecosystem that we really need to solve.
Okay. Those to me are what I'm going to say the more obvious challenges. Yep. What I have seen, I'm curious if you see this, right, because I'm trying to understand if there's a connection here, is what I have seen is that there is, lots of people have ideas, right? Everyone needs resources, right? But when it starts to get hard, people start to fall apart because they didn't realize it was going to be that hard. They don't understand, how to scale, and they don't want to build a team. They don't want to be a manager. They don't, and so brands close, and it's not always about the money. It's about, again, entrepreneurship is the mirror to yourself. How was your why strong enough?
Yeah.
Was your why strong enough? Because it's, again, ideas are a dime a dozen. It's really easy to have an idea. I have tons of ideas, right? I want to create a new arm of Geekdom that's a financial house. Lots of ideas, but how, the why and the mission, in my opinion, has to be like a burning fire inside of you. Otherwise, you will not overcome the hard days, because it's mostly hard days. Yep. Even going to market, right? Let's say you have the idea, you got the funding, great. Now you're in market. Now you have competitors.
Execute.
Now
Yep.
there's sharks in the water. Now there's market headwinds. There's the global economy. There's the political climate that we're in, right? I'm building a premium Mexican beauty brand against this political climate. I would have never in my wildest nightmares imagined that I would be doing that, right? And so, I'm just curious, this is more like the emotional piece, right? Because it's we can find you a funder, we can find you a mentor, we can find you someone, but who's managing the heart and soul of the entrepreneur and really pushing, do you really want to run Geekdom, Charles? Why are you doing this? What makes you keep going when it's hard?
What's interesting about that question, what I hear is this difficult balance that we find ourselves, myself, but also us as an entity, we find ourselves in, which is this role of a cheerleader and that of a reality check. And what I mean specifically about that is we will get some founders who come in really early, really energized and engaged with an idea that frankly does not have a market to sustain what it is that they're looking for. And what role do I, individually serve to crush that dream sitting directly in front of me? And what impact does that have? And it is a delicate balance.
Yes.
I'll be honest, I have not fully figured out.
Yeah.
And I would say it's like a pendulum. And there are times where we swing a little bit too far. I remember back in the old days of Geekdom, there was this dream killer mentality that we had, which, to be honest, served a good purpose for that time. To be able to say, you walk in, you have this idea, I know that you're excited about it, but I'm going to tell you right now, it has no chance of working. But then we can flip to the other side, which was where we're just hey, this idea of, a backpack for dogs that, really has no market, keep going on it. It's a delicate balance. And I'll say that we are always trying to find what that is. And me in particular, too, really trying to find what role I serve, what role my team serves, and at what stage do we have those frank conversations, and is it too late? Is it too early? And that is something I'm always navigating.
Okay, see, I love this conversation because this to me is that is a really crucial piece, right? And when I first went to my score mentor, right, this was 2020 or 2019 when I first found her, she was, she's a New Yorker, right? So she was so I just have to ask you a few questions. Why are people going to buy your product? And I was well, because this, then the other. Well, how, well, right? And so she just asked me these very kind of straight up questions, like, who's going to like your product?
Yep.
And someone has to ask you those questions because you do need to know the answers,
Yep.
right? And I would say a missing piece, because I think what I'm hearing, and this could just be me like projecting, but what I'm hearing in your anecdote is that people have not done the market research.
Yep.
And that, I think, is a crucial piece of starting anything. Like, again, you could have a great idea, but you are not working in a silo. Someone has probably already done this, right? Or something similar. Or if not at all, then how are you going to get people to, like, is there a real need?
Yep.
I mean, the iPhone is a great example. We didn't know that we needed an iPhone. Now we all have iPhones. We can't live without them. But there was no iPhone until, they made the iPhone.
And I think that that's a delicate, that is a perfect example of the delicacy of this balance. Because using the iPhone as an example, I think if you would have gone to the typical market resources that you had back in 2007 to justify the need for an iPhone, nothing would have been there to support it at that time. But it was the gut feeling of that individual, being Steve Jobs in this instance, or the Apple organization, to be able to say, like, no, we do feel like it is needed. And they went ahead and they did it, and it became a resounding success. And to your point, it's in my pocket, your pocket now. And I think that that's one of those things that's, putting myself in the seat that I sit in every single day it is so complicated, because not only am I looking at this and saying, okay, I am a white male who is, operating in an organization that is trying to build startups, which are predominantly white males as well, and trying to say we need to lower the barrier of entry, we need to open up the aperture, and we need to say we need to get other individuals in, but also realizing that it's a difficult role. We don't want to sell somebody to say that this is going to be all roses and gold.
No, not at all.
But really being there to make sure that it's tested enough, that it has a place to go, but then really realizing that in the end, this is a decision that an individual has to make to go from a entrepreneur to an entrepreneur, and to go through that journey. It is a very delicate balance to try to navigate that I rise to every day, because to be honest with you, I love hard problems, and I love the mission that we're on here, because it touches me not only with the helping a business owner solve a problem or to conquer something that seems insurmountable. But the other piece about this, which I've really gravitated towards, was the city building aspect and the ecosystem identity. Is, I think, as it stands today, I don't think that we would leave San Antonio and go anywhere else and say, okay, what is the identity of San Antonio? And here, in return, that it is a startup mecca, or it is a CPG mecca of some sorts. And so what can we do to really shape a new identity there?
Yeah. I think you touched on so many great points, because there's two sides of the coin here, right? There's like, if I came to you and I was like, I want to create the iPhone, you're like, what is that? No one's ever made that. I don't think that's you. I would say that's you projecting your own limiting beliefs on me, right? Because I've never seen it. No one's ever done it. If no one's ever done it, why would someone actually asked me that? Estee Lauder said, like, why do you think no one has created a brand like this? And I said, because no one's had the courage. Next question. So there's two sides of this, right? It's like, we want entrepreneurs out there to say, like, you're the visionary. You're the one with a bold idea. No one's going to believe you until you do it, right? When I said, I'm going to launch a brand called Nopalera, everyone was like, okay. And it wasn't until I was like, we're here, we're there. They're like, oh, and they can pick it up and you can hold it like it's real. You did it, right? You have to be your own cheerleader in the beginning. No one's going to believe you more than you.
Yep.
That said, you still need to do market research. So every time I go to make a new SKU, I have a spreadsheet of like, who are all the competitors? What are their price points? What are the value propositions? Is it in plastic? Is it in glass? Is it, synthetic, whatever? And that's because I'm like, this is what consumers see, right? These are their options, right? If I'm going to make a hand cream, how is our hand cream going to be better? How are we going to win, right? And knowing, I think, how you're going to win in a competitive market is also something very important to identify.
Agreed.
So, for example, right, for us, I'm very clear. I'm like, we're not going to win on efficacy. We're not going to win on science-backed claims. Like, those things are actually table stakes now. Everybody can get science-backed, use the same ingredients, right? We're all using the same ingredients. So how are we going to win? We're going to win on emotional resonance. We're going to win on, the experience, right? And that is everything. That's how it looks, how it smells, how it feels,
those
how
intangibles, right?
Everything, because beauty's all about emotion, right? I'm very clear. I'm like, nobody needs to wear red lipstick. You want to wear it because of how it makes you feel, right? Nobody needs to wear perfume. You like to wear it, right? Because it's a desire, of how you like to feel about yourself and how you want others to feel about you. So I think being that's the market research piece, right? That everyone needs to do, right? If I was like, I want to start a plastic plant business, you're like, great, well, tell me how your plastic plant business is going to be different than this one, because I got this at Home Goods for $1. So how are you going to make money, right? And you do need to be able to answer those questions. And sorry that I called that it's plastic. I don't know. We were trying to pretend that it was real.
I don't know. You're good.
But that's the piece that I would love to understand. Like I would love to see the chain of experience. Like if I walk in the door today and I'm like, hi, I just moved to San Antonio. I have this great idea. I heard that Geekdom is the place for entrepreneurs. Like, what happens next?
Yeah. So what happens next for that is when we have somebody walking in the door and they're saying, hey, we're here, we're ready to build.
Yeah.
We immediately get them in touch with one of our program members, team from our team, to be able to say, okay, hey, let me understand where you're at.
Yeah.
So, quick questions, those open-ended questions you mentioned earlier that your SCORE mentor asked, we start that. But we have a couple different avenues, a repertoire of mentors of about 80 plus that are able to spend their time from specific industries and specific backgrounds to be able to help identify those things as well. And so we use a combination of both of those to be able to identify, okay, who is this person and what do they need next? And then we have different programs specifically at that early stage to be able to help them connect. Now that mentorship piece exists throughout the whole thing. And you'll see some mentorships that start at the very beginning and then go well beyond the growth phase, and that they just continue to be best friends and advisors throughout, investors even in some instances. But we do have programs. And so for that, I have an idea. I don't know where to start. I honestly have no idea. All I know is that I see somebody on Shark Tank, I want to be that person. We have a program that we call our Startup Bootcamp. You come in for a weekend, and within 54 hours of walking through this door, you will walk out with a lean canvas business model. So you have your very first business model on one piece of paper, and you've started to identify what your unique value proposition is. We also help you craft a really quick elevator pitch so that if you are finding yourself in a moment where somebody's asking you, hey, what is this and what do you do? You have something you can say. It's somewhat scripted, somewhat prepared, and you feel more comfortable with it. That's the second intent of that program. And then the last one is to create your very first pitch deck to be able to talk about it a little bit more in depth. So that's what happens during that very first program. Then we have an incubator, and that incubator is really what I look at as a go-to-product stage. It's where a lot of this market research starts.
Okay.
You got to start spending a lot of time to really understand who you're trying to sell to, what it is that they're looking for, and whether or not your solution has a place in this world.
Yeah.
And really, that's where you see a lot of these companies start to fold, or these ideas really start to fold, or you start to see dramatic pivots in that stage. And then we have what we call our pre-accelerator, and that to me is kind of a go-to-market strategy program. And the idea behind that is you have a couple different pathways you can go here. Some are going to go and try to raise funds. If that's the case, then let's prepare you for conversations with VCs. If you are just going to go and you're going to start making revenue based on your customers, then let's help you craft the best message that you can for your customers and help you come up with a strategy on how to reach them. That's what happens at that pre-accelerator stage. We also have a fund, very small, where we invest. We call it the community fund. And the intent behind that is that Geekdom community members have the ability with their products that they're building to pitch for some funding. And so that'll range from $20,000 to $30,000 of funding. And then we've helped some really early stage companies be able to launch just off of that. And then this last year, we did our first attempt at what we're calling our GAP program, which is our Growth Academy. And the whole intent of that is to surround, very similar to the cohort of CEOs that you spend your time with, is to create an environment where people can be in close proximity, but we're also putting some experts in front of them to help them with 4 key areas: operations, financing, marketing, and sales. And so we get these 4 paid mentors to come in and then open up the books, look at them in really intentional detail to be able to say, like, hey, you're missing the mark here. These metrics are not going to work as far as your margins. And so we get a little bit more in the weeds, and we're always trying to develop another program to help solve them. But it is really based off of the audience of founders that we have within here. Sometimes we go specific in industry, sometimes we don't. And it pretty fluid.
So 2 questions.
Yeah.
Thank you for walking me through that. 2 questions. Is it typical that someone starts, I walk in the door and I do all these programs, like boom, boom, I do the weekend, the accelerator, the growth, like, is that the idea that you want them to actually go through the whole chain?
Not necessarily, but
Okay.
I will say that it was intended for that purpose. It was intended to say, if you don't know where to start, we will shepherd you along this journey. Now, it is not a requirement that everybody has to go through them, but you will see some that go through it really quick. You'll see some that go through it here, take a break, come back here.
Got it.
And so we see kind of both, but it is not necessary that they have to do that.
And then what is the percentage of people that drop off in the journey, and where do they drop off?
It's big. And I would say the biggest thing that you see is ideate. And what I mean by that is, you mentioned this earlier in our conversation, everybody has great ideas. Everybody thinks they have great ideas.
Yeah.
But when they start to realize, oh my God, there's a lot of work from getting this idea to something that somebody's willing to give me money for, or that somebody is willing to buy, that chasm is huge. And
so it's at the beginning.
Very beginning.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say if you get past, I would say ideate, cultivate, which is for us, our startup boot camp and our incubator.
Yeah.
If you make it past incubation, if you make it into this point where you kind of have put in some work, market research, you have a little bit more confidence in what your product should be, you see a more stickiness after that. Now, and there's a lot more resources you can add into them there to be able to help them navigate some of the complexities that happen, whether that be financial help, whether that be operational help. But really getting to that stage, I think, is where
They're ready.
Yeah, correct. And you see such a big drop off from somebody walking in the door with a blue sky in front of them and then come crashing down.
Right. Okay. So that's super interesting. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I will also say that, and we touched on this earlier, is that there is no geekdom in New York.
Really?
There is, like what you just explained, I'm like, where does that exist? Like, where does this model exist elsewhere? Does it exist in Austin? I don't know. You would know.
So there's some, and I would say that one of the things that I've seen as I've evaluated other ecosystems that have done this, the uniqueness that we have is that early stage focus. I would say that there are these free resources. You mentioned SCORE, we have Launch SA, where you can go and you can just say, hey, help me understand where I'm at and what I may need to go forward.
Yeah.
But where I see a lot of these other ecosystem partners, kind of fall off is that community building aspect, which I owe to the founders of Geekdom for creating from day one. It is this community where you feel comfortable enough to walk in and say, Sandra, I'm struggling with this thing. Your background offers me some help to be able to, to navigate this.
Yeah.
And your willingness to give back is a huge piece of that to be able to advance, the community's progress. And so that is something that is unique for us here. So operating very early, but then also building a community as early as Austin. But Austin has what's called Capital Factory, and Capital Factory.
But that's very different.
It is. It focuses much more on venture. It focuses much more on tech.
And they take equity from the get-go.
Yeah, and we don't do that. We don't take any equity. The only exception for that is the community fund, which is a safe note. But even that, it's very early, very small, and it is very founder friendly, based off of the Y Combinator model. So
okay, So again, San Antonians, this does not exist everywhere. Like what you just described, I had to do 6 accelerators like patchwork, piecemeal, right? I was in one to help me learn how to raise. I was in this one to learn about beauty. I was in that one to learn whatever, right? Because there wasn't a one place where you could walk in and walk you through the funnel, right? Where everything was there. So congrats.
Thank you.
How do I become a mentor?
Well, hey, that's easy. We'll get you signed up right now.
Okay, great. Because what I love about this is, or just about entrepreneurship in general, which is what you guys are about, is you're helping people evolve. And people, again, like I said, they're either going to decide that they're going to evolve or they're not.
Yep.
They're like, actually, I'm good. Like, I like my life now. I know where things are. I know that the sky is blue. I know, that this is a wall. I don't want to go into this uncertain territory, so I'm going to stay right here. Great, that's a choice you make, right? But those that are, courageous enough to be like, I'm going to jump and I don't even know what's off this cliff, that is a special kind of person, and that is a beautiful journey because you will learn something about yourself.
Yep.
About yourself.
And I think one piece of that we always hold really true, which I'm so glad that you're recognizing this, is, and just bringing it to the forefront during this conversation, is that creating less fear around failure, number one. But number two, realizing that even as you do that jump and make that jump, and even if you've started to put things towards it and you realize this is just not going to work, there is just as much information, if not more, that you're going to learn from that failure than you will from a success of getting funding for it. And so acknowledging that, repeating it, and being here to regather them after those failures is such an important piece.
Huge, right? I think failure, everyone that's successful has failed a million times, right? I think sports is a great analogy for this. Kobe Bryant did not win every game.
Nope. He didn't make every shot.
Right. And so that is what this is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you only want to win every game, then this is not for you.
Nope.
Right? I don't actually know what is for you, actually, because I don't know any industry,
reality, yeah.
not reality. But so again, it's like this ability to hold both. It's like I can be the best, and I can also I can not make the cut, or not make I don't even know basketball terminology. Make the hoop,
the
make
shot.
the shot.
Yeah,
Thank you. I'm like, what is it? Make the shot. I'm going to my first Spurs game, by the way.
Are you?
This month, I'm very excited. Yeah.
Nice. Who are they playing?
It's Milwaukee.
Nice.
Yeah. So my boyfriend's from Milwaukee.
Okay.
So he's like, of course we have to go.
Are you gonna wear Milwaukee, or are you gonna be wearing Spurs
That's
gear?
a good question. We might go one of each. I don't know. We'll see. But it's the learning, right? That again, for me, right? Why are we here on Earth, right? Is to learn, right? Is to learn, to grow, to help one another.
And to your point, and then share that with the next.
Yes, well, that's the helping, right? It's
Yep.
like help others, right? It's like if I've walked the trail and I'm like, there's a snake up ahead, I'm gonna be like, hey, there's a snake up ahead. Otherwise, why wouldn't you do that?
In that analogy right there, not just the snake, but the carving a path is exactly what we're trying to do here. Is we realize that as we have, you building Nopalera here, there is this opportunity. To your point, this is the first, brand of its kind. And so, what journey did you carve through this grass that then we can recognize and then turn around and say, okay, hey, here, make a turn here if you want to go this route, or realize that there was a pivot that had to happen here and go this way instead. And so that's exactly what this is all about.
Yeah, I love it. You can find me on the internet, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and you can find Nopalera here in San Antonio at Rancho Diaz. You can find us at Ulta Beauty USA online, Ulta Mexico in store, Ulta Middle East, Credo Beauty in store, Nordstrom.com, about 400 independents across the country. And of course, on our website at nopalera.co, and of course, Amazon.